Hey everybody, it's Miss Calkins. We have a few more lessons to try to get through before we wrap up this year. And the good thing about today's lesson that we're going to be working on is these are things we've already done. But in order to progress through the task that we have to do this week, you got to make sure you remember how to do a couple of these old things that we've already talked about. So today's mostly going to be review. The first thing we're going to be reviewing is how to write an equation in slope-intercept form if you are given slope and 1 point on the line. So just to recap, slope-intercept form looks like this: y equals mx plus b. You should be really familiar with that. Just remember that m stands for slope, b stands for the y-intercept, and the x and the y are an ordered pair. So in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, we need two things. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. We don't have the y-intercept in any of these problems, so that's what you're going to have to find first. So remember, this is m, that's slope, this is your x value, and that is your y value from your ordered pair. So we're going to take these numbers that we have, we're going to drop them in to y equals mx plus b, where they go, and when we finish that, we'll have our value for b, which is the y-intercept, and then we can write our equation for the answer. So my y value is 2, so I'm going to drop the 2 right there. M stands for slope. My slope is 1/2. I'm going to put that there. All of this was given to you. X is -3, so I'm going to drop that where x is. I don't know what the y-intercept is, so I'm going to solve for that variable b. The next thing that you're going to do is multiply these two together. So if you do 1/2 times -3, that's -1.5, and I still have plus b on the end. In order to get b by itself, since this is -1.5, I want to move it over here. So I would add 1.5 to both sides. That cancels this out. I'm left with b on this side. And 2 plus 1.5 is 3.5, so that's the y-intercept. Now you're not finished yet, because your goal for this problem is to write the equation of the line that has a slope of 1/2 and passes through that ordered pair. So my slope is 1/2, my y-intercept is 3.5, so my equation would be y equals 1/2 x plus 3.5. Okay, number 2, we're going to write the equation of the line that has a slope of -1 and passes through the point 4, 1, through the ordered pair 4, 1. So again, this is x, this is y. I'm going to drop all of this into y equals mx plus b. My goal right here is to solve for b, or the y-intercept, so then I can write my equation that I need. My y value is 1. My slope is -1, my x value is 4, and I'm going to put b on the end because that's what I'm solving for. -1 times 4 is -4. And in order to solve for b, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So when I add 4 here, that cancels out. I'm going to add 4 here. 5 is b, or the y-intercept. So again, my final answer is going to be the equation. So I'm going to drop the slope and the y-intercept in my equation. So y is, now there's a couple ways you can write this. You can put -1x plus 5, or you could just have -x plus 5. Either one of those would be correct. Then the last example we have, slope is 4. The ordered pair is -1, -4. Our goal is to write the equation that has a slope of 4 and passes through that point. In order to write the equation, we need our y-intercept. So my y value, my y value is -4. My slope is +4. My x value is -1. And I'm solving for b. I'm going to multiply those two together. 4 times -1 is -4 plus b. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And when you have -4 plus 4, that is 0. So my y-intercept for this particular line is 0. It doesn't mean it doesn't have a y-intercept. That means it passes through the origin. The y-intercept actually has the numerical value of 0. There's two ways that you can write this equation. You can just write it as y equals 4x because the y-intercept is 0, so you don't have to put that. But if you're more comfortable showing it all the way out, you can do it 4x plus 0. Both of those are equivalent and are fine. Okay, so that's part one, and again, these are just some things that I'm reviewing, so it'll make the rest of the things we have to do this week a little bit easier once you've got this under your belt again. The second thing you need to make sure that you can do for our task for this week is to convert an equation into slope-intercept form. So what that means, again, is if I gave you this equation right now, you can't tell me what the slope and the y-intercept are because it's not in slope-intercept form. So you have to convert it into slope-intercept form to be able to see that. And what that means is you are going to solve for y. You're going to get the y by itself. We also did a lot of these when we solved literal equations, and we did that before all this COVID stuff happened. So here's what you're going to do first. You're going to move the x term first, and if x has a coefficient like this one, you move that whole term all together. So I'm going to move this minus 2x over here to this side. So the way I'm going to do that is by adding it to both sides. So when you have a minus 2x plus 2x, that 2x goes away, so you're left with 3y over here. Now this reads 18 plus 2x, but if I want to put it in slope-intercept form, I'm going to put the 2x first and plus 18 on the end. We can switch those around, that doesn't matter. Now I've got to get y by itself. In order to do that, I have to move the 3. It's 3 times y. The opposite of multiply is divide. I have to do the opposite operation, and I'm going to divide everything by the 3, just like that. So y is by itself. That's what we wanted. I can't simplify 2/3, so that's going to stay 2/3 x. I can simplify 18 over 3, and that is going to be 6. So y equals 2/3 x plus 6 is this equation in slope-intercept form. And if you have that in slope-intercept form, then you can see the slope is 2/3 and the y-intercept is 6. All right, one more example from those, or for this. So I want to get y by itself. I'm going to move this entire term that has the x first, and I can move it to both sides by adding it. I've got to do the opposite operation in order to move it to the other side. So negative 4x plus 4x, that cancels out. I'm left with 6y on this side. I want to write it with my x term first. So I'm going to put 4x because it's positive 4x. That is a negative 36, so that's going to translate to minus 36. Then I'm going to get y by itself by dividing everything by 6. So y is by itself. 4 over 6, I can simplify that also into 2/3. Now, they don't always come out to be 2/3. It just happens to in this example. And then if you have negative 36 over 6, that is going to be a negative 6. So for this equation, if you put it in slope-intercept form, your slope is 2/3 and your y-intercept is negative 6. But in order to see that, you have to have it written in slope-intercept form, okay? So tomorrow, or today, whatever day you're watching this, on Monday, I will be available for Zoom at 12 o'clock. You have 10 questions that go along with this on your Canvas assignment. 5 are going to be slope in 1 point, and 5 are going to be the questions like this. Please come into Zoom if you need some help. That's what it's there for. I will help you work this out. Thank you to those of you who are still sticking with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you later. Bye.